Right, so we'll now move on to the next industry track challenge, where we'll be looking at medication traceability and compliance. So here we are looking at a challenge statement of how might we improve medication compliance among senior patients at home and at senior care centers. So here we have representing National Healthcare Group, Dr. Ravinder, who's the Deputy Chief Medical Informatics Officer of Tan Tock Seng Hospital, and then followed by Simon, who would be representing St. Luke's Eldercare to share more about their challenges. So we'll first start with Dr. Ravinder.
Hi, everyone. So the challenge statement for this portion is, as stated here, how might we improve medication adherence among senior patients, as well as ensure that clinicians receive data about their adherence to the medication. And there are a number of reasons why we want to do this. Why, for example, patients are not taking their medication as they should, especially the elderly. Things like not remembering that they should be taking medications at appropriate times, or they don't understand the need of taking medications at fixed intervals. And of course, a lot of individuals refuse to take medications because of the apparent or real side effects that may occur from them. And the impact with this is that, on the one hand, if clinicians are not aware that patients are not taking their medication, when they come in for follow-up, invariably the chronic disease that is being managed will be poorly controlled. And so the clinician's response then would be to possibly increase the dose of the medication or increase the number of medications to control, for example, the blood pressure or the blood sugar, which in itself leads to more side effects and therefore worsening adherence. So it's a vicious cycle that we're trying to break. But at the same time, uh, patients who don't take their medications are more likely to be readmitted to the hospital with complications of the disease that they have. And these are some of the gaps that we are currently seeing with the devices on the market. Yes, there are electronic pill boxes out there. There are some devices that do provide reminders, but we are looking for something that provides almost an end-to-end solution, something that can be started in the institution. Um, and so patients can start performing self medication administration while they're still inpatients, or even while they're in a nursing home, while they're in a community hospital, and then they can continue the process using the same device back home. And at the same time, it should be affordable, obviously, and something that's easy to refill by the pharmacists. Could I get the next slide, please? Right. So, in fact, some of what I've stated earlier is reflected in this slide. Adherence is definitely a significant issue, and in fact, it says what 50 to 60% of patients are non-adherent, and non-adherence is not a one or zero equation. People are adherent to various levels, and I guess this is the problem that we don't really have visibility on. If they miss the odd dose here and there, it's not so bad. But if they refuse to take a certain pill out of the 4 or 5 that they're taking, then it's difficult for us to know which is the one that we need to titrate or adjust accordingly. And again, the implications are is what I've stated earlier. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is an example of pill packing that institutions are performing currently for patients who have difficulty in remembering when and how to take their medication. So this is a dose-based packing. In other words, multiple medications that are meant to be taken at different times of the day are packed in such a way that the patient just simply needs to go to the correct day and time and take that medication. But as you can see, there are some problems with this. I mean, this is backed with the silver foil. So it's not something that you can just go in and easily replace a tablet if the dose changes or if the patient's issues require an additional medication, for example. And again, this doesn't give you any sort of trackability unless you pop in and look at blister pack at the end of the day or at the end of the week and see whether they've actually completed taking all the medications. But again, it's just a proxy. You have no idea whether they truly took it or not. And some of the other issues associated with this are in that list as well. So this is what we're looking for. Um, a modular electronic pill box, something that can basically has a cartridge and a smart dock. So it needs to be networked. There needs to be an associated app which is linked and provides reminders to the patient. It can go up to the caregiver, even to the provider. Messaging that can appear on the pill box as well as via the app, simply because some of the older individuals that we deal with may not have a smart device that they could then leverage on. Um, and the cartridges themselves. So basically, the cartridge would be almost similar to what we saw in one of the previous slides, in that pharmacy could easily use a similar system in the hospital to refill the patient's medications, and then you just simply swap it out with the current empty one, and the system would be smart enough to detect what if there are any differences, etc., and be programmed according to the patient's individual medication needs. Um, then, of course, things like a built-in sort of a visual manner of alerting patients, and a sensor. It helps to detect whether the medication has been taken or not. Is that particular slot empty, or are there still a couple of pills in there? Of course, in future iterations, we could even detect which pill has been left behind, and that would be an ideal situation. But for now, even knowing that the patient has removed X number of tablets from the slot at the appropriate time is a good proxy that they have likely taken that medication. And of course, then this information needs to flow back to the clinician, so they're able to assess the adherence level of the patients when they come in for review. So some of the issues that we are likely to face with current systems that we want to be able to overcome. Any electronic system does result in heat dissipation, and this can, in actual fact, denature or reduce the efficacy of the medication. So we need to make sure that that is catered for somehow. Also, we need to make sure there isn't too much moisture in the environment. Well, there is in general, but we need to build in a system that will reduce that. Um, the ability to store light sensitive medication. I talked about access to the pills. The way that the patients take medications these days, you have a pill box. You open up the slot that you're going to take the pills from, and then you turn the whole thing over. Those few pills hopefully fall into your palm, and then you take them. Not really the ideal situation, especially for older people. Pills can just roll off your palm and fall to the floor, and then they get omitted. We need to find a better way of dispensing medication. Connectivity, obviously, we talked about whether there should be some built-in LTE, 4G connectivity for those who don't have Wi-Fi at home. Keeping that cost minimal is crucial, because we anticipate eventually this being an end-to-end solution. You'd want to see this system in all of the wards, in all of the pharmacies, and in patients' homes, in community hospitals, in nursing homes. So we're looking at large volumes, and that's where we should be targeting the deployment. Next, please. How are we going to test the value of this device? So this is a proposed project, which is that once we have sufficient prototypes, we would then recruit approximately 100 patients. And of course, it depends on how many prototypes we can get. And they don't have to be concurrent patients as part of the project anyway. But we will recruit individuals who are either under home or outpatient care. We will perform various assessments, including the MMAS-8, and then we'll introduce these pill boxes. Some of them could be introduced at the point of, or just prior to discharge, so they get used to it in the inpatient setting before they take them home. And then we will call and check on how they're basically taking the medications. But of course, we have a control group where we will not intervene in the same way. The design of this trial will reflect that, and then we will be able to pull some very useful data from this. For example, does the pillbox system allow us to identify those individuals who have been adherent, and does that actually correlate with clinical outcomes? At the same time, does the MMASA actually improve uh, as a result of the intervention? So these are some of the things that we can use to determine whether or not adherence has improved.
Thank you, Dr. Ravinder. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much for
much.
your sharing. Now we will have Simon to share with us a few more about from a St. Luke's Eldercare's perspective. Looking at the time, we have about 5 minutes, and then we will leave more of the sharing when we answer the Q&A section. Yeah, over to
Hi,
you, Simon.
yeah. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Simon from Senior Eldercare. I think today I would present some of the medication adherence in our senior care center. Medication adherence is important in all care setting, and this care setting also includes our daycare, our senior care center under Senior Eldercare. At Senior Eldercare, we administrate medication for elderly under our care. These medication procedures flows from information from the elderly and their caregivers. Of course, in our center settings, we follow strictly to the 5 Rs: the right person, right medication, the right route, the right dosage, and of course, the right timing. Next, please. However, there are still challenges and gaps on the ground. As we know, others, not only in standard elder care, most care center are mainly due to misidentification and miscommunication. And especially this happen when elderly have different types of medication. On the other hand, the care center staff do not have a reference or system to double up as a check to eliminate such errors. The next one is a lack of medication planning system, which is currently we are using the pill box. This lapse in medication consumption is because care staff are occupied with other care provision, which that's why it resulted the elderly to miss a dosage while participating activities in the center. The last gaps that we also notice is there's a lack of nurses or medical-based staff at the center to double check this individual medication regime, which the elderly must adhere to. Next. Sorry, next please. Okay, so now what is the impact and how it really matters to us? Okay, if the elderly is not adhering to the compliance of medication, it will result to not a good outcome for in terms of health and medical needs. The elderly also sometimes worry about medication consumption, most likely due to the fear of medical knowledge or even the side effects that occur. For the caregivers, the impact is without the proper regime, they do face caregiver stress and they don't even have a peace of mind while taking care of the elderly. The last impact that we saw is the care staff, the center staff take additional administrative time in these medication reminders for our elderly in our care. Next. So the solutions and consideration features that we're looking at for this problem challenges is a medication planning system that can schedule with a scheduling function and alert for our care staff to help to facilitate this medication consumption for elderly. This design should also function to help to verify the medication has been consumed, which is important. And of course, we want to prevent any mix-up of medication between elderlies, a personalized solution for the elderly in terms of consumption of medication. And of course, to better enhance and strictly deliver the 5 rights that I mentioned previously. Yeah. So I think that's the end of my presentation and Ravinder's presentation.
Thank you so much for your question, for your sharing. So now it's the Q&A segment, and we have about 10 minutes allocated to it. One question we had is, for this challenge, are the patients bedridden? Wait, sorry. Okay, apologies. One question we had is, are there any tech solutions that have been explored already, and why did they work or why did they not work? So maybe Dr. Ravinder, you can share that first.
Hi, yeah, we've been looking for a solution for some time. We have tried a number of different electronic pill boxes. As I mentioned, there are some. The first issue that I find with many pillboxes is that they often stick to the same pattern, which is that the pillbox itself is often a grid. The grid could be like 7 times 1, 7 times 2, as in the number of days times the number of sessions. And then you might have an alarm system in there, or you might have it linked to an app that reminds you to take the medications. This does not work for patients who have medication regimens that don't really very strictly adhere to these 7 times 1, 7 times 2, twice a day kind of dosing. And in fact, we have this problem when we go out and we see patients who have to take, let's say they're on Parkinson medication, and sometimes they take the medication 5 times a day at strict intervals. But at the same time, they've got to take other medications in between those times. And sometimes they will take one pill at 6 a.m. in the morning and then another one at 7 o'clock, because the two of them can't be taken together. So this is where we are looking for a solution where all of the slots are actually generic. We don't even want a strict sort of a time-based grid, and we want the ability to be able to control it with software what time each of the different slots need to alert the patient that that medication needs to be taken. So this is the kind of thing which we have not seen in any other solutions so far.
Thank you, understand. Simon and Lester, what about St. Luke's Eldercare? Have you explored any tech solutions to address this issue of medication compliance?
And most what we are doing now is mainly using manual pill boxes, which are given by family members. They are already pre-packed, and we just kind of check through them. So it's very low tech. In terms of looking at various other options, I haven't really tried any electronic IT enabled kind of devices. That's why we're quite keen on bringing tech in to help us here.
That's great. So we also have a question about whether I think this might be more for Dr. Ravinder. Like, does the event data, like real-time monitoring tracking from, say, wearable devices, online consultation, do they need to be integrated?
Very good question. In fact, in my slide, I did talk about that in one line. I may have glossed over it. They don't need to be integrated, but definitely that data also needs to be captured and possibly viewed side by side with adherence data. And the reason for that is, if I'm going to be reviewing a patient's blood pressure, let's say, and I've started them on two different tablets, I would want them to check their blood pressure on a regular basis at home, so that I can actually then compare adherence data with that clinical outcome. Is the blood pressure reducing? Or if it's not, and if it's not, then I look at the adherence and I see, well, this person has actually been missing every other pill. Then I know that it's not so much a case of the it being the wrong dose. I've got to rethink how that patient should be taking that medication. So some of the things that we do is, we might end up like moving the night dose of the medication to the morning dose, because the son works nights and he's unable to remind the patient that he needs to take the night medication, or the patient sleeps early and forgets, things like that. So we have had to try a variety of different ways to improve the patient's adherence, but this is purely based on very manual processes. And now with very clear adherence data, we should be able to improve the process and even manually configure the timings when medication should be administered, using the software and the networking that's built into this solution.
I understand. And so another question that was a little more behavioral was whether for Simon, are there instances where where the seniors would not want to take their medication, and could you help us understand a little more from the thought process?
Okay, so I rephrase your question. Is there incidences whereby the LD refuse to take medication? I mean, they are. Sometimes, as I mentioned in my slide, due to medical side effects and the knowledge of importance of medication adherence. So sometimes the elderly, even with the pill box, they just refuse to take medication. mainly due to side effects, and that's why they reduce now.
And on this point, were there any instances of successful interventions in changing their behaviors? Because this now leads more beyond a tech solution. This will affect the tech solution and adoption.
Very much. There's a lot of the care staff do spend a amount of time trying to convince the elderly to take medication. But then again, mentioned the slide, sometimes staff are so busy with their other administrative work that it really, we just can't do that. So with a solution like a timely reminder or even a alert, right, we kind of should trigger the elderly to take the medication. We believe so.
If I could just quickly jump in here as well, if you just give me a second to answer some of this. So one of the ways that we try to improve adherence is to first start with reconciling the patient's medications. Sometimes they're just taking way too many medications, and if they take them all at the same time, they're invariably going to end up with side effects that by right, they could avoid if they space out the medication. So that's one of the things that we do. Reconcile, see what's essential, what's not. We try to space them out at different times so that they take them in order to optimize benefits and minimize side effects. And these are some of the things that have to be very, very manual. And today's infrastructure, today's pill boxes, even if they're electronic, don't allow us to create those kinds of custom regimens. One might think that it's actually harder for someone to take medication more often. And so why are we introducing that level of complication? But the truth is that what we're introducing is administer and forget system. They don't need to remember, they will be reminded. All they need to do is to take it when they're told or when they're reminded to take the medication. But effectively, it will help in the long run by reducing their side effects, reducing their medication interactions, and at the same time, making them feel that they are in control of their disease. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Aida and Dr. Ravinder. So I think with the many features that we are looking at, is there a for general target price that each pill box has to hit within, and what is the general estimated quantity of the device? So I think this will help them help our solution providers think beyond and think about, let's say, prioritization of features. So repeat my question, what's the target price generally for each pill box? It will make sense.
Okay, maybe I can start. So we're looking at an end-to-end solution. I want it to be modular. So you will have to invest in a dock, in a base, and the base is probably going to be the one that's going to cost the most. Maybe in the region of 100 or maybe a couple of hundreds. And then the refills are the ones that are going to be cheaper, and those are the ones that can be recycled between pharmacy to institution to patient and back. And in the long run, that will reduce the overall cost. So the pill boxes themselves shouldn't cost a lot, but the dock with its connectivity and its software and programmability, that is where the main cost is going to be. But I expect that to be a one-time cost. At the same time, that is something that should be in at some point. I would hope it would be in all of the wards next to each patient's bed. It should be in all the pharmacies, so then it would actually enable pharmacists to refill their medications using the same system, and also in all nursing homes and care homes, etc. So I think that there's a significant market here, provided we can demonstrate that this end-to-end solution works across the different domains.
Yeah. So for our centers alone, we have 1,000 plus elders just in our daycare centers, and that's just our organization. As Dr. Ravi said, if this is a solution that really can be useful for other service providers, then there's really quite a lot. Nursing home side of things, we have 189 beds. So again, that's just one nursing home, and we're not a big nursing home. So again, it's something, if it really takes off, yeah, definitely a lot of users.
Thank you. And also just to share from a funding perspective, because this is an industry track challenge statement, if it's adopted, there would be up to $1 million for the co-development of the solution with the solution provider, and another $1 million for the adopter, which is a challenge statement owners to adopt the solution. We are running a little I'm out of time, so we'll just take one last question. So what are the typical number of pills the patient needs to take at one time? I know it varies, but I think just a general sense of the range that we are looking at from a spectrum perspective. Yeah, Dr. Ravinder, I saw you smiling, so I think that it must be a very complex situation.
No, it's a great question, and I think this is something that we will need to address, because obviously then how big should the slot be? How many should we sort of ensure that we can fill into any one slot in the pill box? And I think when we did our numbers previously, looking at the different patients that we had measured, I would say as long as we can fill in about around 10 to 12 tablets per slot, we are good. Now that sounds like a lot, but the reason why we go with that figure is that some tablets are bigger and others are small. And so if we can fill in 10 average size tablets, and I think there is a guideline for that, then we're likely to be able to target the majority of patients. But the advantage of this solution is that even if one slot does not fill all the medications that they need to be taken at the same time, you can use 2 slots and both of them can light up at the appropriate time. Again, because I said none of the slots actually adhere to any one particular time, it's completely programmable. So, you have some flexibility there, but I would say on average, about 10 tablets per slot would be a good target.
Got it. And Lester and Simon, for St. Luke's Eldercare for seniors, what's the number of pills they'll usually be looking at? And also, I'll just add on a quick question that came out. Are we only looking at tablets? Are there also ointment or liquid medications?
Yeah, for tablets wise, yeah, I think 12 is pretty much there. In terms of other types of medications like ointments and cream, if the solution can do that, that'd be amazing. Because it's not just that. Someone asked earlier about inhalers as well, and I did mention also about subcutaneous injections. I mean, if you want to really look at all the medicine that elder takes, yeah, it does come in many other forms. So of course, ideally, if everything can be included, that would be great. But of course, I can understand the limitations. So usually for creams and ointments, that generally is sort of a separate method. Injections of that are a bit special. Inhalers are a bit special. So certainly for this solution, looking mainly at tablets.
But we could use the software. We could use the app to sort of include all of the different medications they need to take. Not everything needs to be in the pill box, but again, as part of the complete ecosystem, the reminders could also trigger the need for injection or an ointment, etc. Yeah, I mean, we would be happy to explore that.
Yep. Of course, the priority for now is the tablet as a first step towards this innovation. Okay, thank you so much for Dr. Ravinder, Lester, and Simon for your time to share. I really appreciate it. And now I'll invite you to take a leave. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.